What up, everybody? It's your boy Joshua. Joshua Wasaki back with another video. You know it. Okay, so this video right now is gonna be about the Odyssey. I'm gonna be doing the Odyssey in most likely 3 parts. If I can sum it up in 2 parts, I'll be happy to. But if it takes three, it takes three. Anyway, so I'm just gonna tell you small information about me and the Odyssey, the story of the Odyssey. Odyssey is my only favorite story of Homer. I read the Iliad, but I never liked it. I don't like the Iliad. It's stupid to me. Not stupid, but it's boring. The Odyssey is more interesting and it's more action packed for me, I think. Anyway, so the story begins with Odysseus and whose son had just been born. Um, and his son's just been born. Okay, and he named him Telemachus. But then Odysseus has to go to war to fight with other Greek kings against the Trojans because of Paris and someone else. I forgot his name. And he has to fight. He has to fight them. So he takes his brother and a bunch of army people, and he takes like 12 ships, and they go to the war. So Odysseus, maybe we don't know, is the one that came up with the idea of the Trojan horse. After 10 years of war, he fights and he wins the war with the Trojan horse. Anyways, so that's how he wins the war. Then on his way back, he's going, and he said it's supposed to be like a week or two journey from where is at to back to Ithaca, where he's from. So when he's on his way to Ithaca, before he stops over at a island and he fights a bunch of an army of somebody that he once quarreled with or something, and he wins a little bit, but then he starts to gets attacked again, and he starts to lose. So he calls his soldiers back, and they go back on their boats and they sail away. Then he goes back to then he goes to end up going to this island called the Island of the Lotus Eaters, which is an island of people who eat this flower, but this flower makes them want to stay and never leave, and it makes them do this, makes them happy, and it gives them euphoria. It's basically like a drug, basically, and it makes them want to stay there forever and never leave, and that's not a good thing. They can't do that. So they can't stay forever. So Odysseus says, "Come on, guys, we gotta go." And he's like, they're like, "Okay, we'll go." And they fly away, or they not fly away. They sail away, and they end up landing on another island and it's an island, and they're going to go to shore. They feel like they go to shore to check on supplies and stuff. And on this island, they end up finding a cave with all these cheese and meat and stuff, and there's like a bunch of sheep skins. So they bring two things from that on the ship with them. Basically a sheep's stomach, which is a way they used to carry things full of wine, and I believe that was it. Yeah, that was it. And so they grab all their food and they eat it, and then Odysseus' man wants to leave the cave before the owner comes back of the cave. But Odysseus wants to stay. Odysseus is a curious person. In the ancient Greece, when someone came to your home as a guest, they were offered a gift. It was his custom. So he wanted to receive his gift from this person and leave. Then he would leave, and also wants to meet the person on the cave. So they waited until nightfall, and at nightfall, a giant cyclops walks into the room, okay, and pulls a boulder over the opening of the cave. Now they're trapped in. He starts his evening fire, and the fire illuminates Odysseus and his men, and he knows now there's intruders. He basically grabs the two intruders. He says, before that, he says, Odysseus says, "Hello, sir, we come from far off, and we would like to see the gift you bestow us, because we're guests." And he grabs two guys, and he eats them whole. He cooks and eats them whole. Two of Odysseus' men. Same thing happens the next morning. So the next morning he opens the boulder, he grabs the he grabs two more men, eats them for breakfast, and then walks out and tends to his herd. Now Odysseus' men are afraid. They don't know what to do. So here's what they have. So they have a plan. Odysseus has a plan, but he doesn't tell them. Here's what Odysseus does. He waits until later on that night when they come back in. He grabs two more men, the Cyclops, and eats them. Now Odysseus fills a giant bowl or a bowl that he has with the wine. Okay, and he drinks. He gives it to the Cyclops. Polyphemus is the offer him. Polyphemus is the Cyclops' name. And he drinks it, and then he asks for another one. He drinks another one, and he drinks a third one. Now, by this time, Polyphemus is completely drunk and is unstable. And what I mean is, he's basically swaying back and forth. He can barely see, even though he has just one eye, and he's basically can't do it. So he asks for Odysseus' name, and then Odysseus says, "Well, my name is Nobody." Okay. And you see why, and I love this part. This is why Odysseus is one of the best heroes that there was. Okay? He and his men decide that we must kill the Cyclops, but then he realizes that's not going to work. Because if they kill the Cyclops, there's no one strong enough to lift that boulder from there, and they'll be trapped and die in there. So what they plan to do is this is what he does, okay? They sharpen a giant stick, and sharpen it over a fire's edge, okay? And they get all the Greeks and Odysseus' men that are left, get up onto the Cyclops and plunge it into his one eye, blinding him automatically. And he wakes up and screams in pain and agony. And all his other Cyclops brothers show up at his cavern, and he says, "Polyphemus, what's wrong? Who is hurting you? Or who is harming you?" And this is where Odysseus' genius comes in. He screams, "Nobody's hurting me! Nobody's harming me!" And they're like, well, they're scratching their heads like, well, if nobody's harming you, nobody's hurting you. Shut up then! Basically, that's what they're thinking. Shut up then! We're trying to sleep! You know what I mean? And sorry guys, I had something stuck in my teeth. Anyways, so what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I was at so he basically says nobody's hurting me, no, and they all said like leave us alone. Anyways, so he goes outside and tends to a ship, stuff like that. So the next morning, Odysseus has a plan. He's not gonna tie them to the top of the sheep. He brings in his sheep every night before he goes to bed and makes his dinner. He brings the sheep into the cave. So he decides that he's gonna do this. He's going to put not going to tie his men to the top of the sheep because the Cyclops is going to check the top. He ties them to the bottom. And then when they're going out that next morning, the Cyclops Polyphemus checks the top, never the bottom. So as soon as all the men get out, they drop from the sheep and they get to their ship. And as this is going on, the Polyphemus notices that they have escaped. Even though he doesn't have an eye, I guess he knows they escaped, and he runs after them. And Odysseus says this: "You want to know who I am? I'm Odysseus, son of Laertes, king of Ithaca." And right then, Polyphemus throws a giant boulder at his ship, missing it by a mile. I think it was a mile. And he then prays to his almighty father, Poseidon, god of the sea, to make Odysseus' journey, if not kill him, make his journey a living hell. Make it so he never gets home in the amount of time. And in that situation, it basically sets up the entire thing. He fucked up royal. He not only angered a god, but he angered the god of the sea. He's traveling on the sea. You screwed up big time. Anyways, he lands on another island after this, an island where there's wind. Okay, an island of a king who has the unique ability to control the winds. So he gives, the king gives Odysseus a bag of all the winds of the sea. Okay. He says, as long as you don't open that bag, you will have smooth sailing from here to, to wherever you're going, okay? So smooth sailing from here to Ithaca. So he doesn't open the bag, okay? For 3 days and 4 nights and 3 days, he works round the clock tending his ship. And on the fourth and final day, he rests when he starts seeing Ithaca in the horizon. While all these days, Odysseus' men start growing weary because they weren't the ones that went onto the land accompanying him. He went by himself. They said, Odysseus has gold and treasure, and he's not going to share it with us. And they end up getting their greed to get the best of them, and they open the bag. And they blows them all the way back to the same island that they got the bag from. And Odysseus goes back to the king and says, could you help me again? It didn't work. And he says, no, I can't help you again. Obviously, you angered a god. I can't help you. Go away, basically. I've tried it. It won't work. Sorry, go away. So he ends up going somewhere. So he says, okay. So they end up sailing into another island. This time they effed up royally. They sailed right into an island that's inhabited by giant cannibals. And the cannibals destroy one of Odysseus' ships, or 4 of Odysseus' ships, and leaves him with 6, I believe, because 6 ships left. And then eats 12 of his men. The worst thing about it is Odysseus has to hear them scream his name. Odysseus, help us, save us, while they're being eaten, which is the worst thing I think anyone would have to go through. That's it for this video, guys. I'm going to end the Odyssey Part 1 here. Let me know in the comments below if you like the Odyssey. What's after this mythology story? What mythology story you want me to do next? Stay cool, and I will see you in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already.